Have you ever considered that a bird doesn't burst into song because it craves an audience or desperately seeks applause? It sings, quite simply, because it has a song within its heart, a melody yearning for expression. Could this simple, beautiful observation from nature hold a profound key to understanding our own inner world? Imagine if the world around you, the very fabric of your experiences, begins to subtly shift and realign. Not when you exhaust yourself trying to change others or control external circumstances, but the very moment your own mind awakens to its profound, innate presence, just as the wind moves not to impress the stoic trees, but simply moves by its own nature. And yet, the trees inevitably respond, swaying and whispering in its path. What if people, too, respond not merely to what they see on the surface, but to something far deeper they sense, an energy, a quietude, an unshakable strength, a palpable presence that naturally emanates from a person who has made one simple, yet extraordinarily powerful decision to return to the sanctuary of the self, and to stop seeking validation from the ever-changing world outside. Indeed, there's an ancient Buddhist saying that whispers this truth across centuries: the one who bows deeply receives the whole sky. This beautiful teaching illuminates how genuine humility, profound stillness, and unwavering inward alignment naturally command more respect, more authentic connection, than all the noise, force, or carefully crafted performances in the world. And this isn't because of some external demand or clever manipulation, but because of an undeniable internal radiance that shines forth. So, what is this one singular thing? This pivotal shift, that once truly done, allows the world, almost without effort, to begin responding to you in a remarkably different way. It is this, in its profound simplicity, to consciously, courageously detach from the outcome of being liked, of being approved, of being accepted, and instead, to anchor yourself deeply, unshakably, into the serene waters of your own inner stillness. Do this once, with complete conviction, then, watch silently. You might be astonished at how the universe itself begins to adjust around you. Consider the parable of the mirror that forgot it was glass. In the tranquil, secluded corner of an ancient monastery garden, a man once sat for days upon a large, flat stone. He asked nothing from the world, not its fleeting respect, not its fickle admiration, not even its conditional love. All he sought was the profound embrace of silence, the crystal clarity of an undisturbed mind. His past, you see, was a tapestry woven with threads of constant trying. He was perpetually trying to be understood by those who seemed deaf to his heart. He was tirelessly trying to earn the love of those who seemed to look right through him. He was exhaustively trying to be right, to prove his worth in endless debates and justifications. Every time someone spoke harshly to him, he would bend over backwards, contorting his own needs, in a desperate attempt to fix the perceived rupture, to smooth over the discomfort. When he was ignored, a familiar pang of insignificance would arise, and he would raise his voice, hoping to finally be noticed. When he felt excluded, a deep ache of not belonging would compel him to make even greater efforts. to give even more of himself, just to feel a part of something. Yet, the more he gave, the more he poured himself out in this desperate quest to be seen and valued. The more transparent, the more utterly invisible he paradoxically became. One serene evening, after many days spent wrapped in the profound silence of the monastery, he approached the wise old teacher, their figures bathed in the soft glow of the moonlight. "Master," he asked, his voice heavy with the weight of his long-held confusion, "why is it that people so often turn cold when all I try to do is warm them with my efforts? Why do I feel myself shrinking, becoming smaller and smaller, the more I desperately give of myself?" The teacher, his eyes holding the calm depth of a still forest pool, replied with gentle wisdom, "A mirror, my son, cannot reflect the world with clarity when it is constantly chasing after the faces it so desperately tries to please. To truly reflect, it must first learn to be still. Stand still, and let the world, in its own time, face itself through the quiet clarity of your being." These words, simple yet profound, puzzled the man. His mind, accustomed to striving and doing, initially resisted their passive wisdom. But instead of arguing, instead of trying to explain his past efforts, for the first time in a long while, he truly listened. He made a conscious decision to stop the endless cycle of explaining himself to others. He released the heavy burden of hoping that silence from others was somehow a judgment, a confirmation of his own guilt or inadequacy. He ceased the exhausting internal rehearsals of lines and gestures designed to make him more likable, more acceptable. He did one, seemingly small, yet monumentally significant thing. He gave up the deep-seated, often painful, desire to be chosen, not because he suddenly stopped caring about connection, or because he had grown callous or indifferent, but because he had finally, profoundly, realized that the very moment one genuinely stops needing external validation, the entire energetic dynamic shifts. You see, people do not primarily treat you based on the inherent qualities of who you are, but rather, they respond to how you unconsciously, or consciously, treat yourself in their presence. The shift within the man was, at first, almost invisible, even to himself. He returned to conversations not with a hidden agenda of seeking approval, but with a newfound calm in his heart. He no longer leaned in anxiously, desperate to be heard, to make his point. Instead, he found himself naturally sitting back, creating space, genuinely seeking to understand. He didn't interrupt. He didn't chase after fleeting attention. He didn't push his opinions or his presence onto others. He simply observed, with a quiet, centered awareness.
And then, subtly but surely, the change began to ripple outwards. The very same people who had once so easily dismissed him, who had spoken over him or seemed to look right through him, began to slow down when they spoke to him now. They paused more frequently in their speech, as if considering their words more carefully in his serene presence. They held his gaze a little longer, a flicker of genuine curiosity, perhaps even respect, in their eyes. They started to ask for his opinion, and then, remarkably, they would actually wait patiently for his answer. This wasn't because he had suddenly become wiser, or wittier, or more charismatic in any conventional sense. It was simply because he had detached from that desperate, aching need to be heard, to be validated. In his stillness, in his non-neediness, he had become like the unshakable mountain that does not move, that does not chase the clouds, but simply is, and the silent, resonant echo of his newfound inner energy began to ring far louder, far more compellingly than his words ever did before. This is the profound power of the energy of non-neediness, a concept deeply revered in Zen philosophy. The state of mushin, often translated as mind without clinging or no mind, is central to this understanding. It means to act, to engage with the world, without being attached to the outcome, without anxiously anticipating what might come back in return. When a person walks into a room with no gnawing hunger for approval, no desperate grasping for love or acceptance, something undeniably magnetic, something quietly compelling, radiates from them. But why is this so? Perhaps it is because the most universally attractive energy in the world, the energy that draws others in like moths to a gentle flame, is the energy of someone who feels intrinsically whole, complete within themselves. People, often on an unconscious level, are constantly scanning others for subtle energetic cues. That inner radar is asking, is this person trying too hard to impress me? Is this person desperate for connection, for my approval? Is this person subtly trying to prove something, either to me or to themselves? When the answer to any of these unspoken questions is a resounding yes, the delicate balance of power in the interaction immediately shifts. Respect, in that moment, is often lost, or at the very least, diminished. But when someone sits calmly, present and clear, radiating an energy of profound non-need, the silent message they convey is powerful. I am not here to gain something from you. I am not here to extract your approval or admiration. Instead, their presence communicates, I am simply here to give what I can, to be authentically myself, to observe, to connect genuinely if the opportunity arises. Suddenly, others feel less resistance, less unconscious pressure in their presence. They find themselves naturally opening up, listening more attentively, and often feeling a spontaneous sense of admiration, not because of any overt charm or clever persuasion, but because of the sheer, unadulterated power of authentic presence. This transformative journey is, in essence, a shift from craving to compassion. The Buddha told that much of our human suffering arises from tanha, the deep-seated craving or thirst. A significant portion of our social suffering, those feelings of loneliness, insecurity, and resentment, often stems directly from this intense craving to be liked, to be treated well, to be respected, to be seen as important. But when one consciously begins to drop this craving, to release this tight grip of needing external validation, a new, far more potent power begins to enter their being. True compassion arises, not from a place of being needed by others, but from a place of simply being present for them and for oneself. Genuine respect flows, not from aggressively demanding it or subtly manipulating circumstances to require it, but from consistently, authentically embodying the very qualities that naturally inspire it. And love, true unconditional love, appears not from desperately seeking it in the eyes or actions of others, but from courageously recognizing it as the very essence of one's own true nature. The man in our story did not suddenly become loved and respected because he tried even harder, or because he discovered some new, clever technique for winning people over. He became loved and respected, quite simply because he stopped trying so desperately, and instead, he courageously started being present, being still, being authentic. And in that state of serene self-acceptance, people began to sense something in him they couldn't quite name, something intangible, yet deeply palpable. His quiet silence, born of inner peace, often felt louder, more profound than their own agitated shouting. His unshakable calmness had the power to soothe their inner storms. His newfound clarity, like a pristine mirror, gently reflected their own confusion back to them, inviting them, perhaps for the first time, to see themselves more clearly. This profound shift often begins with an invisible practice. One does not necessarily need to change their clothes, to dramatically cut ties with people, or to suddenly start speaking in profound, philosophical pronouncements. One needs only to consciously, consistently stop doing one thing, stop trying so desperately to be treated differently by others, and instead begin treating yourself with a sense of sacred detachment, with unwavering self-respect, regardless of external circumstances. Once done firmly, once this decision is made with unshakable conviction, this act becomes like a potent seed. It quietly roots itself deep within the fertile soil of the mind. And from that rootedness, everything begins to change, often from the inside out. The body language subtly shifts, becoming more open, more relaxed. The voice may slow down, carrying a new resonance of calm. The smile becomes genuine, a reflection of inner contentment, not a performance designed to please. The eyes become clear, no longer restlessly searching for approval or validation in the faces of others. The soul, at last, stands firm, no longer begging for crumbs of acceptance from the world. Do this once, with all your being, and observe. The shift, though it may begin subtly, inevitably happens. Those who once ignored you may begin to notice your quiet presence. Those who once, perhaps, disrespected you may begin to soften.
Their own defenses gently lowered by your non-reactive stance. And this happens not because they have fundamentally changed, but because you have changed. You no longer unconsciously give them power over your sense of worth, over your inner peace. Let's briefly look at a part-by-part breakdown of this inner transformation. First, consider the state before the shift, the hungry mind. This is a mind constantly seeking validation from external sources, a state which inherently breeds inner weakness. Trying desperately to impress others often, paradoxically, leads to being overlooked or dismissed. Chasing relentlessly after attention frequently causes the very disrespect one is trying to avoid. It's a cycle of depletion. Second, there is the turning point, the silent decision. This is often a quiet, internal moment of profound realization. A moment of complete detachment from the outcome of how others perceive you. It's the courageous decision to stop caring, in that needy, anxious way, about how others view you, and instead, to return wholeheartedly to a state of deep self-honor and self-acceptance. Third, comes the inner shift, the emergence of the mountain within. As you cultivate this detachment, your inner energy gradually grows still, remarkably focused, and beautifully non-reactive to external provocations. Your words naturally become fewer, yet they carry a far greater depth and impact. Your actions become more purposeful, born from inner alignment, no longer driven by a sense of desperation or need. Fourth, we observe the outer reflection. The world begins to respond. People, often unconsciously, sense this profound shift in your energy, and they naturally begin to adjust their own behavior in response. Some may become kinder, more considerate. Others might become genuinely curious about your newfound sense of calm and presence. Your inner peace, in its quiet way, begins to command a different kind of attention, an attention born of respect, not demand. And fifth, we witness the long-term effect, becoming the mirror. Consistent inner stillness, that unwavering centeredness, allows you to become like a clear, polished mirror, reflecting back to others not your own reactions or judgments, but their own truths, their own states of being. Your profound non-neediness subtly teaches others how to respect you, not through lessons or lectures, but through the undeniable power of your example, and gradually, you begin to attract into your life only those individuals who are themselves aligned with, or are seeking, that same profound inner peace. But why does this seemingly simple shift work so powerfully on a spiritual level? It aligns beautifully with what Zen philosophy often refers to as the law of emptiness. Just as a cup must first be empty to be truly filled. When one courageously empties the mind of that incessant desire to be treated in a certain way, when one releases that tight grip of needing external approval, the ego, with its endless demands and insecurities, begins to dissolve, and as the ego recedes, the inherent light of the spirit, your true essence, begins to glow with an undeniable radiance. That glow, though it may not be loud or boisterous, cannot be ignored. It carries a quiet power, an authentic presence that speaks volumes without uttering a single word. It's crucial to understand that this is not some clever manipulation tactic. This isn't about pretending not to want praise or respect in order to cunningly gain it. That would simply be another game of the ego. No, this is about genuinely, profoundly letting go of the deeply ingrained illusion that your intrinsic worth, your fundamental value as a human being, somehow depends on the responses or opinions of others. Once that illusion truly shatters, once you reclaim your worth from the fluctuating hands of the external world and anchor it firmly within yourself, something magical happens. People no longer see the carefully constructed mask you once wore to try and fit in or gain approval. Instead, they begin to see, and respond to, your authentic essence, the radiant truth of who you truly are. And it is this very essence, this unadorned truth, that invites genuine connection and lasting respect, laying the groundwork for even deeper levels of interaction and self-understanding, which we will explore further. So, as we've discovered, when the masks we wear to seek approval begin to dissolve, something truly profound happens. Others start to perceive not the carefully constructed persona, but the authentic, undeniable essence of who we are. And this essence, unburdened by neediness, possesses an almost magnetic quality. This brings us to a final, crucial insight: the irreversible power of doing it once. You do not need to engage in a constant, exhausting battle, repeating this act of detachment over and over again as if it were a daily chore. One true, clear, deep, and unwavering decision, a decision made in the very marrow of your being, to no longer seek your fundamental worth through the fleeting approval or validation of others, activates a transformative ripple that, quite literally, never ends. It subtly, yet profoundly, rewrites your energetic signature. It naturally realigns your focus from the external to the internal. It can, over time, genuinely shift the trajectory of your destiny. Make this one sacred commitment to yourself. And then, with patient awareness, simply watch how those who once so easily dismissed your presence now inexplicably pause. How they begin to truly listen. And how a genuine, unforced respect for your being naturally begins to dawn in their eyes. This is the path of the unmoved mover. In the deep currents of Buddhist philosophy, the true sage, the awakened being, is described as unmoved, not because they are devoid of feeling, not because they are cold or indifferent, but because they have consciously chosen not to be perpetually shaken and disturbed by every passing ripple in the waters of life, by every fleeting opinion or external event. The sage, through dedicated inner cultivation, becomes like a steadfast stone in the middle of a flowing river, still, silent, imperturbably strong. Those around them, encountering this profound stillness, have a choice. They can either crash against this unyielding presence, their own agitations reflected back at them, and then perhaps move on, or they can choose to sit quietly beside this embodied stillness and, in that shared silence, begin to learn. The greatest, most meaningful change, you see, is almost always invisible to the undiscerning eye. It happens in the profound depths of silence. It needs no loud announcement, no grand fanfare, no external validation, only the quiet power of authentic presence. Make that one deep, internal shift, and you will likely find that you no longer need to ask, plead, or demand different treatment from anyone ever again. You will have, in essence, become the very energy that naturally, effortlessly commands it. Let this teaching, therefore, be remembered not as some clever advice to manipulate others into respecting you, but as a sacred, liberating path to return to the luminous truth of your own authentic self. For it is a law of the inner universe: when your inner world stabilizes, your outer world, as if by magic, begins to reorganize itself in response. When your soul finally stops its restless seeking, the universe, in its infinite abundance, often starts providing in ways you could never have orchestrated through effort alone. Respect, as we've explored, cannot be begged for, it cannot be borrowed temporarily, and it certainly cannot be forced into existence through power or aggression. Like a rare and precious orchid, it blooms best in the nurturing silence of a scented mind. It grows strong in the fertile soil of detachment from outcomes, and it radiates its subtle fragrance effortlessly from a state of pure, unadulterated presence. So, the invitation is always the same. Return to the sacred ground of yourself. And then, with open curiosity, simply watch what happens next. Consider the majestic river. It never demands permission from the landscape to flow towards the ocean. Reflect upon the serene moon. It never begs the darkness of the night to allow it to shine its silvery light. In precisely the same way, your own true nature, when freed from the tangled entanglements of desperately needing to be seen, to be validated, or to be accepted by others, holds within it a profound, inherent, sacred power. This is a power that has the capacity to change not just how other individuals treat you on a personal level, but, more remarkably, how the entire world seems to respond to the very quality of your presence. This ancient teaching gently reminds us that the deepest, most lasting transformation does not usually come from what we frantically do externally, from the endless striving and achieving. More often, it arises from what we courageously, consciously stop doing internally. Stop the incessant need to explain yourself, to justify your existence. Stop the exhausting charade of constantly trying to prove your worth to a world that may never fully understand or appreciate you anyway. Stop contorting your beautiful, unique soul in an attempt to fit into cramped, suffocating spaces that were clearly too small for your expansive spirit from the very beginning. Once this internal stopping truly happens, once you release these ingrained patterns of seeking and striving, a natural, profound silence begins to arise from within. This silence is not the emptiness of desolation or lack. It is the vibrant fullness of pure presence. And this presence, this quiet centeredness, becomes your invisible armor, your unshakable sanctuary. You no longer feel the sharp sting of being ignored or overlooked, because you no longer derive your sense of completeness from external recognition. You will begin to notice, with a sense of quiet wonder, how those individuals who once seemed to hold so much power over your emotions, whose approval or disapproval could send you soaring or crashing, gradually begin to lose that tight grip. And this isn't because they have necessarily changed in any significant way, but because your inner strings, your emotional anchors, are no longer precariously tied to their fleeting approval. This is the subtle, yet profound, miracle of non-attachment. You stop automatically reacting to their provocations or their indifference. And as you maintain your center, they often, surprisingly, start reflecting on their own behavior. You stop unconsciously giving your precious energy away in a desperate bid for acceptance. And others, sensing its intrinsic value, begin to treasure it, to respect your boundaries. You stop shrinking yourself, making yourself small to be accepted into their world. And others, drawn by your newfound authenticity, begin to rise to meet you where you now confidently, peacefully stand. You do not become truly powerful by conquering others or by winning their reluctant admiration. You become truly powerful by no longer needing to be conquered by their opinions, by no longer being swayed by their judgments. You do not gain lasting respect by force or by demand. You gain lasting respect by first embodying it, profoundly and unconditionally, for yourself. One decision, one internal shift. Detach once, with unwavering resolve, and then remain still, anchored in that inner knowing. Let others talk their talk. Let others test your newfound resolve if they must. Let others even walk away if their path no longer aligns with yours. Through it all, stay grounded in your truth. The way of Zen, at its heart, is not the way of strenuous, ego-driven effort. It is, rather, the gentle, profound way of return. Return to the sacred inner temple of your own being. With mindful awareness, gently sweep it clean of the sticky cobwebs of craving and attachment. Light the fragrant incense of self-awareness and self-compassion. And then, simply sit, metaphorically speaking, beneath the sheltering branches of the Bodhi tree of your own awakened soul. And as you sit, as you cultivate this inner stillness, you will discover a remarkable truth. The world around you begins to move, to shift, to realign, not you. You remain the calm center. This truth is timeless, as ancient as the stars. Those individuals who genuinely radiate self-respect, not through arrogant performance but through quiet, authentic being, are the ones others eventually, inevitably, gravitate toward, not because they chase or demand attention, but simply because they glow from within. Now, perhaps, take a quiet moment and ask yourself, with gentle honesty, what am I currently chasing in the external world that I mistakenly believe will finally complete me? Will finally make me whole? What specific reaction from others am I so desperately craving that it consistently steals my precious inner stillness? And what, truly, would happen if I were to let go of this deep-seated need? Right here, right now, just this once, with complete surrender, the answer, most likely, will not come through frantic thought or intellectual analysis. It will arise, softly and clearly, through feeling, through the embrace of stillness, through the simple rhythm of your own breath. And once that profound decision to let go is truly made, from the depths of your being, do not look back, do not second-guess it. Walk into every room, engage in every interaction, with the gentle, unshakable confidence of someone who inherently knows they belong, not because others have explicitly invited them in or validated their presence, but because they no longer feel the desperate need to be anywhere else but fully, peacefully, within themselves. Let this teaching gradually become not just an idea you understand, but your very way of life, not a clever tactic to be employed, not a temporary strategy to achieve a goal, but a new, liberated way of being in the world. In stillness, true respect naturally flows. In non-attachment, authentic love spontaneously rises. In silence, real power quietly, profoundly speaks. Do this once. Watch in stillness, and allow life, in its infinite wisdom, to gracefully realign itself around your quiet, unwavering strength. Call to action. Thank you so very much for sharing your precious time and energy with us in this exploration today. We sincerely hope that these reflections have touched a chord within you and offered some nourishment for your own unique journey. If this message of inner stillness and authentic respect has resonated with you, we would be deeply honored if you would consider subscribing to our channel. Our community is a place where we continue to delve into these kinds of transformative insights, supporting one another in living more conscious, peaceful, and fulfilling lives. Please take a moment to click that subscribe button down below. And if you feel called, do hit the notification bell as well. That way, you'll always be in the loop whenever we release new content designed to uplift and empower you. We genuinely love hearing from you, so please feel free to leave a comment, share any thoughts, reflections, or perhaps even a personal experience related to this topic. And if there's anything specific you'd like to see us explore in future videos, please do let us know. Your input is invaluable. Until next time, may you walk in peace and with the quiet confidence of your own true nature. We look forward to connecting with you again very soon.